Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome all the viewers here to today's event. We're having the Masterclass on how to succeed with video communication in pharma. And welcome, everyone. It's great to see that some of you have already started to engage in the chat here today. We have viewers calling in from most parts of the world, as it looked like on the sign up, so that's very exciting. And we're going to have a deep dive in how video communication works, the challenges, the opportunities, and how two experts from the industry are working with video today in pharma. And looking at the agenda that we have here today in front of us, we're going to have a short round of introduction. And then we're going to look a little bit on the foundation, like what role does video communication play in video, and from the two perspectives that we have here today. Then we'll run through and look at some business cases and use cases. You guys will get some practical know-how, some best practice learnings from the experience from our experts here today, and look at some real use cases. And we really want to encourage engagement from all of you in the audience. So please take part in the chat, use the Q&A chat room, ask questions, and we will bring them up in the end on our Q&A session. And before we round off to the Q&A, we're going to have a bit of a leap into the future and get insights from our experts here today on what do they see is happening as the next step in video. So with that, we can kick things off with the introduction. And my name is Victor Underwood. I'm the CEO here at Quick Channel. I've just a few days ago actually passed 10 years in the industry in this role, and been on most of my grown-up career working with video communication, video strategies, and video platforms. So that's a little short background on me. First over to you, Marcus. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hello and warmly welcome to this session this morning. So I'm Marcus Kern. I'm working for Bayer since soon 25 years, I think, mostly with IT, but last couple of years I've moved over to the marketing and doing all the video communication in the Nordics, or a lot of video communication, live events and stuff like that. So quite technical guy, but it's nice to be here.
Great. It's great to have you on, Marcus. We're super happy to have you here, and I'm sure the audience is going to draw some great insights from you here today. Over to you, Valtteri. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, thank you, Victor, and thank you to Quick Channel for having me. It's great to be here this morning. So my name is Valtteri Manninen. I'm from Finland, in case you were wondering, and I'm communications manager at Orion Pharma. So we are a globally operating pharmaceutical company, originally based out of Finland, where we've been going for more than 100 years. I haven't been with Orion for all of that time, so I've been with the company for about 5 years, and I've worked a lot with video and virtual events during that time. So both in-house productions and then productions with external partners, and for both internal and external communications. So my journey with video started whenever I was very, very, very young. So with home movies that we would film with my friends and my siblings. And I don't know if anyone's ever used Windows Movie Maker, but I would edit them down with Movie Maker. And before you go looking, those are not available on the internet anywhere, for which I'm very, very grateful. But it did give me a very early start and a passion for video. So I've been very fortunate that I've been able to carry that on all the way from my childhood and my teenage years into my adulthood and my professional career. So hopefully I'll be able to share some crumbs of knowledge with you this morning.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And again, warm welcome, Valtteri and Marcus. I think we should jump straight in. We have about 40 minutes of the audience attention, and we want to have some room for questions in the end. So I think we'll start with looking at the foundation and the role of video communication in pharma today. It's of course containing several different parts when you look at it, and video communication is covers a broad spectrum today, as you can see also on the slide, with some topics that can be covered. But I would like to start from your point of view, Valtteri, and your journey with Orion Pharma. Could you share some light on what role does video communication play, and how does this look from your perspective today?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So obviously we use video for a great many things, both internally and externally. But if I focus slightly on the customer engagement side of things here and webinars in particular. So I know that we're all sick and tired of hearing how the COVID pandemic changed the way that we work and made us all go online and stuff like that. But it really did have an impact on the way that we've kind of shifted from face-to-face to virtual interactions increasingly. So face-to-face meetings are still the most preferred among our customers, but we're seeing more and more demand for virtual meetings and online training content among our healthcare professional customers that's convenient for them to watch and access. So as we all know, in healthcare around the world, resources are very, very stretched and healthcare staff are really busy. And many clinics no longer even take meetings with pharmaceutical sales reps. So I've heard stories where a rep has gone into a practice and the receptionist didn't even know what a sales rep was because they'd never met one, because they don't take those meetings anymore because they're so swamped with work. But at the same time, these busy healthcare professionals really have to keep their knowledge up to date and stay on top of new treatment guidelines and the latest medical research for the myriad conditions that they treat in clinic every single day. So these educational webinars that are delivered by key opinion leaders and top experts in their own medical specialties are a really valuable resource for them. And they've kind of emerged also as a really valuable avenue for pharma companies like Orion to reach both our existing customers and as well as new customers who then want to learn about current topics in the field. And as I mentioned, face-to-face encounters are still really important, but kind of interestingly, what we're seeing is this sort of oscillation between the quote-unquote real world and then the online. So we obviously go to loads of events where healthcare professionals attend and they visit our stand, and we advertise our webinars at those events. And then we have the webinar that's online, and that goes amazingly. And then after the webinar, we get callbacks from the attendees who want to set up a meeting with one of our reps. So it's not that the interactions have moved fully online, but the delivery of the virtual content actually also facilitates our face-to-face customer interactions. So I think it's definitely come to stay, and it plays a really important role in our customer engagement.
That's such great insight, and it's interesting to hear. It's like it is in many industries that what happened a few years ago with the pandemic accelerated things, and then it was 100% digital, and then it's moving back into a blend where both digital and the physical has a place, and that's similar to what we see in other industries too. Thank you so much for those insights, Valtteri. If I jump over to you, Marcus, and from your perspective and the Bayer perspective, how do you see video communications in pharma and the foundation when it comes to video?
I think I can just underline what has just been said. We have seen an increase in amount of events and video communication, not only virtual events, but mostly hybrid events, and also on-demand resources that are consumed in a much higher pace than it has been. So I mean, it's really important here to understand the need of our customers. Where do they want to consume? When do they want to consume? And how do they want to consume? This is crucial, but video communication is here to stay. And I think it's not us pushing a message. We are the enabler of the training for the physicians. So that's how I see it a little bit. Instead of us pushing our messages, we help the professionals to push their knowledge.
That's a really good point, and it sounds like from both of your end that it's been almost a shift then in kind of the your audience, being a pharma company, so out to the healthcare professionals and to the physicians, etc., that they have maybe a different expectation. They expect that they could partake in knowledge and upskill themselves on a digital way rather than just only in a physical way as it would have been, let's say 7-8 years ago. Is that correct?
Completely correct. And the demand is just increasing. And not only like event type, it's also content. So, I mean, you can do interview material, you can do different kind of material that it's easy to consume, not 45 minutes, not 1 hour. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes, and also deliver that with high efficiency to different platforms.
Nice, thank you. So I think we can carry on from the foundation into the next piece here, and looking at some business case and some of those aspects. And I think when we're looking at the pharma industry, of course, it's a very regulated market that you guys are operating in. You are working in an international context, and from the little that I've learned from our pre-talks is that you also have regulation in different markets on how you can communicate and so on, which is, of course, puts pressure on how you can operate, and how it works with being in home markets versus being in new markets, building brand and building trust and so on. And again, if I can pick your brain here a bit, Valtteri, what's your take on these topics, and how do you see it from your perspective and from Orion Pharma perspective?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we have our own sales and marketing operations in more than 30 countries around the world. And those markets vary a lot for us. And the resources that we have in terms of how big the marketing team is in the different countries varies a lot. So in Finland, which is our home market, we are the market leader. So we kind of see it almost as a responsibility for us that we provide training for healthcare professionals. And as the market leader in Finland, we have pretty much universal brand recognition. So video and webinars in Finland for us are not so much about acquiring new customers, but it's more about upholding our reputation as a trusted partner. But then in countries where we are a much smaller player with not so much share of voice, I'm seeing that we can really punch above our weight with our webinars. So the industry average of attendees for pharma webinars is usually like somewhere between 50 and 100 participants, but we often get more than that. So these webinars are really important for us in those countries in terms of building our brand and generating leads in those markets where we are still a smaller player. And I think what the business case kind of boils down to is that webinars are actually, here in the UK, the third most likely channel to influence prescribing behavior across the RX segment. So face-to-face meetings is still number one, and then these kind of hosted conferences hosted by pharma companies are number two, but webinars coming at number three. And I think if you think about the resource intensity of those two other channels, so face-to-face meetings and like live events that you host, you can see that there's like really huge efficiencies there with the webinars. So that kind of immediately brings me to the cost savings side of things. So in Finland, we've obviously been providing this training for healthcare professionals for a very long time, decades. But the way that we used to do it in the olden days, and I think this is so cute to think about, and it makes me laugh. But the way that we used to do it was so much more resource intensive back in the day. So the sales rep and then the expert lecturer would kind of go on a road trip together and drive to dozens of towns and cities around the country to deliver the same training over and over again. The sales rep would drive, and then the lecturer would read the newspaper out loud, so the rep wouldn't fall asleep on the wheel on the trip. But now the technology is so good that we can just do it virtually, or as Marcus pointed out, in a hybrid fashion. So we might have, an event where people can attend in person, but then the content is delivered virtually in real time from one location. Then you can have it in separate sites at once. So the efficiencies there are obviously huge.
Amazing. It's so interesting to hear. And like you say, it's an incredible difference in how much resources, like a big physical trade shows or a knowledge conference versus like this, jumping in a conference room. And I believe you're calling in from the UK, Marcus, you're calling in from somewhere in Stockholm and the same, and running an event like this for knowledge sharing, for example. Marcus, do you have anything that you want to comment on or add from your perspective on the business side?
No, but I think most was said, and I think resources is really limited in many companies today, and using them smart, and also actually deliver something to our customers that they need and want is really important. It's also very important to select where to actually deliver a live event, where to deliver a hosted video, and how does the entire backend look like when producing it. So it's a regulated market, so you cannot just live broadcast on LinkedIn, or you cannot just broadcast on YouTube. You need to be really thorough in selecting and who can get access to the content that you deliver.
And if I understood it correct, when we spoke before, Marcus, that you said like it also differs between markets. So you can communicate to a certain professional or like a profession in one way in Sweden, but a different way in Finland or Denmark or Norway or out in Europe. Is that correct?
Correct. So the rules in the markets are really different. So it really you really need to understand and maybe check with compliance what you are allowed to do. So
Yeah.
if you are not sure, but it's really important. And from our side, I mean, we also have consumer products, which has a completely different regulation than the prescribing drugs. So that's also quite interesting to understand.
Yeah, so you really got to. It's not just bang on, push everything in the same channel in the same way, and yeah, it's very, very, very interesting. Thanks, both of you, for the insights on this one. I think we can move on, and we'll get into a little bit like practical how to, and a little bit also like how a setup could look like. I believe this is a snapshot from your place, Marcus, right? Do you want to take us through a little bit on your like, yeah, practical tips and how you set it up in a when you do your work?
Yeah, so this is a little bit how it started. So we started in a conference room. I brought a lot of equipment there, and then I had to tear it down, and then I had to build it up and tear it down. It was like so many hours wasted. So then I got my own conference room where I'm standing now. It's a one-man show, so we can do our live events. We can do real production interviews, whatever we want in here. Also pods we can record. So we have all the equipment that is actually needed to produce high quality material together with our customers and also internally. It's really important to understand what you need, so you don't buy something and then you have to upgrade, because video tools costs a lot of money, and the technology evolves very fast. So you really need to be able to change parts of the system also on regular basis based on the needs. But renting a studio every time you want to do is quite costly. We have done some business cases, so I do 1 or 2 events per month, and then my salary and everything is paid for this. Now I do more than that, so we actually save a lot of money instead of using external agencies from the planning to the execution and the aftermath of editing and delivering. With that said, when you have good technology, you also need to test and have. That's the most crucial thing. If you don't test, you will probably fail.
Yeah. And did I understand you right, Marcus, that like so in your business case, if you did 1 to 2 events per month, then you were kind of break even, or then you had a return on doing it in-house versus going out and doing it externally. And if you do more than 2, then it's just a big win for the organization.
Yeah, it of course depends on my salary, so to speak. But theoretically, yes. I think one event a month would pay for my
the cost of running the in-house video setup. Yeah. Great. We're going to come back to a little bit like the journey of the Bayer studio as well, with some more insights in just a little bit. But I'll jump into another practical kind of know-how and a bit of best practice from you, Valtteri, on how you work with the audience, with your speakers, how you think about interacting with the healthcare professionals and so on. Do you want to share some light on that, Valtteri?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to maybe comment that you can see here like both ends of the spectrum. Like I'm just here joining with my laptop, and then Marcus has his studio set up. But there's a whole spectrum of things of ways that you can do these things, and I think this really illustrates that in a really good way. So yeah, I'm not a technical guy like Marcus, so maybe I can talk about how some of the preparation that goes into it, and really selecting your speakers and your topics. So I would say that a good guest speaker is really worth their weight in gold, as you have very rightly picked out here. So it takes time to develop that relationship with the expert who delivers the training, but it's really worth it. So how do you find one? That's the question. And we actually find that our sales reps are really the best people at identifying who could be a great speaker to have on, because they attend all these professional events where they hear lots of key opinion leaders giving talks. So their networks and their knowledge and their contacts are really crucial here in identifying those speakers. And then another good place to start when you're trying to find a speaker is looking at treatment guidelines. So if you go and look at who's been involved in creating those guidelines, those are often good experts to have on. So I would say that it's all about understanding what your audience wants to hear about, and just staying really on top of current trends in the operating environment, and new treatment guidelines that our customers are really eager to learn more about in a way that's convenient for them. So then during the webinar itself, when you have it, it's also really important to leave enough time for questions, as you have here on the slide, because it's such a good opportunity for the healthcare professionals to ask those detailed and specific questions that arise in their daily practice, and ask those questions of the expert speaker, who's really the best expert in that field. So they find it really valuable. So it's important that you build that in to the webinar when you're planning it. And then after the webinar is over, at Orion, we're really focused on gathering feedback after each webinar so that we can improve them further. And we try very, very hard to fulfill the wishes of our audiences and to create content that resonates with our customers, and create webinars on topics that our customers want to hear more about. Obviously, there has to be some link to our business and our therapy areas and our product portfolios as far as the topics that we select for our webinars. But I would say listening to your customers really is key here for driving engagement and making sure that the audience keeps coming back. And obviously, if you use something like Quick Channel, like we are using right now, you have some great tools like those polls that we've been having on here, and calls to action that you can use to drive that engagement.
Great. Thank you, Walter. And it's a perfect touch point also on the poll that was just ran here. So the second to highest challenge that our audience is facing today in video communication in pharma, 33%, is this low engagement from the audience. That's been highlighted here from our viewers today, which is quite interesting. So here you have some great takeaways, hopefully, from Valtteri's learnings straight away to you guys who find low engagement tricky. So all of what was gone through with having good speakers, engaging with the audience, listening to the customers, and like always improving your content, getting feedback after the events to ensure that you are on top on delivering things that are engaging. Because from my experience, not from being in pharma specifically, but in video communication as a whole in B2B, I would say that engagement has always been a tricky part, and I would say the silver bullet that works or helps every time is, of course, to have a topic that really resonates with the audience and have speakers that can deliver that topic in a good communicative way. You have those two, you have a very good starting point, and then you can accelerate with interactive features and other things, of course. But I agree that's key in this. But it's quite fun to see that it's overlapping. So some good takeaways, hopefully, for you guys in the audience. We jump to the next one, and we're coming back to a little bit what we were talking about before, and we also have some more insights and some snapshots from the journey that you've had, Marcus, at Bayer. Do you wanna? And when you say also here, like that you have the right hardware and the right tools for the right event, could you explain a little bit on your thinking and what you have learned through the years of working with this?
Yeah, so the right tools are of course very crucial, and that's not just the hardware; it's also the software. So I mean, I'm using a variety of different channels when I do my events. Sometimes I do it in Quick Channel, sometimes I do it in Zoom, sometimes I do it in Teams, sometimes I do it in Vimeo. For consumer health, I do it maybe on YouTube. For corporate things, I maybe do it on LinkedIn. But it's always a question where the audience would like to consume what you're producing and what kind of interactivity do you need. And then you select the correct platform for that event. This is crucial. And of course, content is king. So if you have bad content, maybe it doesn't make it any better to have a super tool like Quick Channel in place, because content, no one wants to see it. But if you have good content, the quality sometimes maybe Zoom or Teams is enough. Depending on the lecture, what kind of tools are there, they more or less willing to use. So some people say, no, I don't want to use Zoom, I can only use Teams. And then, okay, can we try Quick Channel? No, I prefer Teams. And then you have to do this. With the studio setup, it doesn't really matter what kind of solution the speakers want to have. In the studio, I can use all of them and produce it on the platform I select. And the platform with all the registrations, interactivity, it's very important to moderate incoming question if they are, for example, off-label or something that we cannot really discuss. They shouldn't be visible for everyone that people are asking off-label questions. Those should be managed in the back end.
So you want to kind of drive engagement in the events, but you also need to, again, control it due to the regulations and the compliances. And I wrote down a note in this slide based on our pre-talk, but it's like test.
Yeah.
You want to just emphasize what do you mean by that?
Yeah,
most of you probably relate, but still.
Yeah, it's so easy to make a mistake. So, for example, if you don't have the right microphones, or you don't have the right computer, it's right internet connection. Some things happen, and sometimes you have to fix it on the fly. But if you test the concept you're about to deliver, this is really important, and probably you will not have any issues if you have done the testing.
Yeah, I can only second that. It's critical. And even if you are in your home studio and you think you've got everything set up from the previous event, you still got to run it through, because it's technology that we're working with, and the intersection between hardware and software. But we'll jump to the next slide and see a little bit. You want to do a bit of a voiceover? This is like how it started, if I understand it correct, in studio setup in Bayer.
Yeah. So the pictures to the left, as the conference room I had to drag things down to, and then I had to put cameras up, I had to do everything, and then I had to dismount everything when I was done. Then I got some kind of temporary room, started to build it, no green screen, just a easy thing of canvas behind, poor chairs, not that good lighting, ventilation, and of course a lot of hardware. And then taking this off the table and redesigning everything so you get something that really works and is scalable.
So we take the next slide.
So this is what it turned out to be in the long run. So a fixed green screen. You can of course select not to use the green screen. Lighting is mounted in the ceiling. Proper tools, confidence monitors, different camera angles, on air screens outside so people don't burst into the conference room or the studio when you are broadcasting, for example. Also the possibility with high-end microphones for pod recording, vlog recording, and so on. So having a concept, what do you need, building it, selecting the proper equipment based on your business case, what you want to do actually. Another option would be to go to the city and say, okay, I want to do this event in your studio somewhere, and then you have to pay for the technicians, you have to pay for everything, but you still have to do all the planning, and it's time consuming and costs a lot of money.
Yeah, it's great to see such a real insight also from the journey that you guys have done, and I think many in the audience probably recognize the same thing. It's gone from not having studios. Many organizations didn't have studios 7-8 years ago, and then most organizations put together a studio, a little bit like you showed, in with some hardware, some cameras, some microphones, and some lighting in a room, and that is the studio, to then evolve into and not all organizations have done the full journey like you have done, which is really impressive. But I think it's good inspiration to see, and also how you can do it a bit step by step if you are earlier on your video journey. So you start doing more events, you invest a bit in hardware, a bit more in competence and knowledge in the team, and you can scale this further and further and lift up the quality. How is it from just a quick question to you, Valtteri? Do you guys do you have studios, or it depends on which office you're in, or you run everything from the webcam or a mobile? What's a normal Orion setup, would you say? Or could you share some insights on that part?
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that Marcus shared those pictures, because I'm going to steal them and I'm going to study them, because we have something similar at Orion House, which is our headquarters in Finland, but it's much smaller scale that I've kind of built from the ground up. And it's actually, it used to be the massage room. So we used to have a masseuse that came in, and they had their own room. But since we renovated, we gave up that room. So I built the studio in there, and now the masseuse has to use another room. But that's what that used to be. And I've kind of been building it up from the ground up, and we painted the walls and got some gear in there and stuff like that. But it's definitely not as advanced as your setup. And I find myself in the constant, the upgrading never ends. Like once you get a better piece of some equipment, then you're like, oh, now I have to upgrade the lights, and oh, now I should upgrade the microphones, and like, so it is kind of addictive as well to just keep on improving all the time. But for us as a global company, I would say it's really important to find one or find a platform or a tool that scales. So in our bigger markets, like in Finland, where we have more resources in marketing, we can use the same platform with professional studio equipment, so we can hire an external partner and do it from their studio. But then in smaller countries, it might be just enough that they're able to do it in a leaner fashion on their own laptops. So I think it's about finding a tool that's easy to learn and that you can scale and that you can use in these different across the spectrum of how advanced your equipment is and what your ambition level is with the event. So that's really important. And I also think what Marcus mentioned earlier, it's important that you're able to integrate your video content with your other customer-facing channels, like your therapy area websites. So when the healthcare professional watches the webinar recording or the on-demand video, you have that context around it, and you have those calls to action, and you can direct them to your other content as well. So as I mentioned, we and this is a good tip for engagement, I would say, we typically get lots of questions during the webinar, way more than the speaker has time to answer live on air. So what we then do, at least in Finland, is we take all the remaining questions, and then the lecturer promises to answer all of them in writing within a week. And then we post the answers to those questions on our extranet for healthcare professionals, whether that's doctors or pharmacists. So that's another way to get your audience to revisit our channels and how video and webinar play a role in driving traffic to our channels.
Okay, nice. Good tip again, and thanks for the insight there. And like you're explaining your journey where you are on in terms of like studio setup and equipment. And then when you're doing a webinar out internationally, people are using the laptops and the gear that they have at hand, which also reflects how it's working across industries as well, I would say. I just want to quickly remind the audience, so we're having Q&As. If you want to ask any questions to Valtteri or Marcus, it's good time to start preparing them and write them in the Q&A chat room that we're having on the right-hand side of the video player. So please put your Q&As there. We will have a little bit of it looking into the what's coming, and then we will circle back to the questions that we have in the Q&A. So first, if we look at like the strategic outlook, and I think we can combine this and the future trends. What do you see there? If I jump to you, Marcus, what's happening in the future of video and video communication for pharma?
I think the video communication is here to stay. It will go faster and faster and actually be more and more adapted into the business. But in the future, maybe many things will be replaced by artificial intelligence when it comes to creating content, video content, when it comes to actually also deliver some educational material. So we work a lot with it today in our company. We try to embrace the technology that is coming and utilize it to actually save time.
Yeah. Is that would you say that's the biggest constraint for like on your part, like the time resources, the Marcus resource, and the video professional resource?
Yeah, I would say that resources is challenging. It's what happens if I get under COVID when I have a big event. What should I do then? What is my fallback plans? It's only one of me here in the Stockholm office, so that's of course challenging. But time is probably most challenging. Everyone is pulling your arms to the left and right and want you to produce or deliver content, and could be some late nights sometimes.
Yeah, I can fully understand that. But so it's improving the workflow or automating things, and basically making things more efficient is key.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
So, for example, just when you have produced something, you have done a live event, you have edited the live event, and then they say, "Oh, put it on our media library on this product page." And the web designer needs to go in there, and it takes a lot of time. So if you can find a streamlined with a lot of templates, with a lot of I have a lot of pre-built material that I just change the approval code numbers. People can do some things themselves, and it's instantly on the website. And then all of a sudden, just to change something, you have saved 2-3 hours of work time, and because there are so many players involved to do this.
Thanks a lot, Marcus. And if we jump into you, Valtteri, on the kind of strategic outlook and what's happening in the future of video communication, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, I think what Marcus said was absolutely perfect, and I also think it might be with AI, where obviously everyone's on their own social media feeds. We're kind of seeing this explosion of kind of AI slop. So it might be more difficult to kind of cut through the noise. But if you have really good quality content, then I think you can really stand out from that sort of low quality, low value content. So I think this might be a bit of a cop out, but I think regardless of how the technology evolves, I think the key things will still be listening to your audience and building a great relationship with the people that you have on your videos are still key. But definitely, I think there's so much that can still be improved in terms of the workflows and making things more efficient, especially when we're in such a regulated industry. So it's just about making those steps easier for us.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. So we will open up to the Q&A. So please continue to ask your questions in the Q&A chat room, and we will bring them up here in the event. And whilst we're getting the questions in, I have a question for, and you were touching a bit upon it now on the last here, Valtteri, but if you want to send something as a main takeaway to our audience today, what is that? Top things to take away.
Yeah, so a couple of things that I've been repeating here all the time. So one is to take time to nurture and develop that relationship with guest speakers. And then the second one would be to listen to your sales reps, because they have an intimate understanding of what your customers want. And also they have really good networks, so they can identify those gems who are good speakers to have on. But I think a third point would be what Marcus brilliantly brought up earlier, is to really get comfortable with your technology and keep practicing and keep testing until you feel confident. And so there's nothing worse than when you have brilliant content, but the experience is ruined because there's a bad connection or a technical fault or something. And also don't try to do too many things at once. So when it's a live event, the pressure is on. The pressure is on me right now. So if you're trying to give a talk and engage with the audience, but you have to press loads of buttons at the same time and your hands might be shaking, then I think that's recipe for disaster. So, for example, what we've done here is Quick Channel have just sent me a guest presenter link, which gives me a very kind of elegant and simple experience, and I don't have to worry about anything. I just show up and I talk to you guys. So I think it's really important to have someone who's only taking care of the tech side of things. So if you have somebody like Marcus, that's fantastic. So having a dedicated producer per each event. But that can also just be somebody from your own team who's really learned the ins and outs of the tool, and whose only role in that live event is to take care of running the technical side of things on the system. So that would be my third take-home message, I would say.
Great, super valuable, and I can only second the third part there. There's a lot of things to do if you're going to be the presenter running it and producing it at the same time. So I strongly agree. And sometimes you can have a producer that doesn't have to be in the same room or the same location even. It can just be the one that is responsible for mixing the sources, sharing the slides, running the Q&As and the polls and the call to actions and so on. A little bit similar to how it's done here today as well. What's your kind of must takeaways to send to the audience, or that the audience should take with them from today or from your experience, Marcus?
Yeah, I think content is king. If you don't have good content, don't distribute it in any channels. So you really need to understand what the customer wants, and you need to find a person that can deliver that content in a persuasive way with a lot of trust. So I mean, that's my key takeaway. And then it comes to the planning. I mean, we are doing this event 9 o'clock in the morning. Is that the right time to do an event? How can we find the correct time slot when most of the people are watching? A couple of months ago, I did a big event with Swedish healthcare, and we had over 700 people watching, which is quite amazing. Sometimes we have 20, sometimes we have 15, depending on the content the business has brought up. So it's a huge variety, but you can see that time, content also reflects. If you do it on lunch, you probably get more doctors tuning in when they eat their lunch. But you really need to analyze all the events, all the data from them, what is working, what is not working, and take lesson learned from that.
Yeah, and I second that as well. There is a lot of data out there on like when to run your webinars and what time, but it's very, from my experience, it is very vertical or industry specific. Because in some industries, the lunch hour is a no-go, or the lunch hour is great, but it is at 10:30 in some industries, and it's at 1 o'clock in some industries, or geographies also change the behavior. So it's that's an important part. We're a bit over time even from what we've said, 45 minutes. But I've got one question in here I just want to ask, and it's a little bit connected to this with like time and the ability to be able to watch. The question is, do you, from the audience, do you only do live webinars, or do you also make them available on demand?
Yeah, so we make them available on demand, so the recordings will be they're going to be able to watch them later. But I think what's really important there is that, sorry, someone's calling me. What's really important there is having those controls, because it's such a regulated industry, and making sure that nobody else is able to access it, and you're only able to access it from a certain country or from a certain domain. So having those safeguards in place for that on-demand content is, I think, hugely important, because you can get into all sorts of trouble if you don't make sure that that your content is not viewed by people who are not meant to view it.
No, and that's I think what's really making pharma, like most large organizations, are covered by compliance in different ways, security or GDPR or accessibility and so on. But it's pharma has this big layer of compliance that again applies, so it makes it a bit more complex. Marcus, do you also you do, I guess, both live and on demand from your webinars, or how do you?
Yeah, for sure. But it really differs on how we deliver the content. Some things we put on our website, some things we put in closed Facebook groups. Some things we do just communication to customers that we have consent with. But it's a variety of different campaign thinking when it comes to how to distribute, and if it's necessary to have on the product websites or not. It's case driven, I would say.
Yeah, fully understand. All right, we're gonna round off here, and if there's any more questions coming in here, we'll follow the best practice that was taught here today, that we will respond in writing after the webinar has been finished. And I just want to extend a huge thank you to Valtteri and Marcus for joining us here today. It's been so great to have you on this webinar and masterclass, and to learn from your experiences and deep insights from the industry. And thank you everyone who's been watching and participating as well.
Thank you. It's been a blast.
Yeah, really fun. Super good.
Great. Thanks everyone, and thanks all the viewers. Speak to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.